Hello, everybody. Welcome to this edition of Mr. J's Geek Corner. Place where we talk about anything and everything that is geek, whether it be TV, comics, movies, or video game. And this week we're continuing with the special series, special Godzilla Month series of shows this week. And we'll continue. Last week we did Godzilla's best opponents. This week as I said last week, this week we're going to do some of Godzilla's worst opponents, I think. And as I mentioned before, with 60 years, and Godzilla being around for 60 years, he's had he's faced a lot of different foes in his time, and all the way up to in his 60 years, and I said it was hard making that list. It was easy and hard at the same time making that list and this list, and to make the best of list. The worst of list this week was kind of a little bit easier because I said there's like several. There are several like Godzilla movies that they're all good in their own way, but but like I said, I'm more of a fan of the Heisei Godzilla and the early Showa series, like the very first Godzilla and stuff, and Godzilla Raids Again. But that's about the limits of it. I like all the Godzilla movies in their own way, but I said there's just some that just were not not exactly the best. I say, and that's mainly due to the monsters they had. It was just more jokey than anything else, and that to me that's what makes it the ones that's more is just won't that intimidate a foe or just too much of a joke. And I said, I just managed to narrow it down to 5, but to tell you the truth, six was an honorable mention. But I'm gonna go ahead and get it. But like I said, I managed to narrow it down to 5 of his worst opponents, and I'm going to start off with an honorable mention. I don't have a picture of him, unfortunately. I just happened to think of this on the spot of his worst foes, and that is King Kong. And I know why was King Kong be one of a lot of folks regard King Kong versus Godzilla be probably one of the best ones ever. Not to me. Not to me. To me, that was more of a comedic joke. It was more like a joke. Godzilla was too silly. He was too. They always talk about say he's a brute, he's a mindless monster and all that. But King Kong is smart and almost human-like and everything. That's not the Godzilla I know, and that's not the Godzilla that you saw and that's not the Godzilla you would see in like the Heisei series that would almost. They claim on a lot of things has like 94 to 96% awareness, and I said King Kong. I said I did not like the portrayal of King Kong in that movie. It was just stupid. It was terrible. The King Kong. It was just terrible. And I said I just could not. That's what made the movie. But and the fact they had King. I definitely didn't like it. So ain't gonna spoil. I definitely didn't like the outcome of the fight in that one. But I said I did not like. I would love to see it get remade and King Kong look more like he should, don't look so hokey looking and horrible looking and the costume and everything. I would love to see King Kong versus Godzilla done with the utmost seriousness, with a straight face, deadly seriousness. I would love to see it done like that. I said, I definitely didn't like. I said, he looked terrible. I said, it was just terrible. I didn't like it. I didn't like that one. I said, that definitely gets an honorable mention for one of his worst enemies. But there would definitely be others, as you see on this list. And starting off, number 5 is definitely one of the most obnoxious that I have ever seen. And I'll show you here in a second. And you probably don't know this one. There's definite diehard Godzilla fans would know who this is. His name is, or her name, I guess, is Gabra. Now I know right away he almost looks a little like Godzilla. Yeah, he does. He looks like he got hair and everything. I don't know much about him. All I know is that his one and only time ever on camera was in Godzilla's Revenge. I mean, and essentially all that was like an anti-bullying story. That's pretty much all it was like an anti-bullying story. And it's basically a little boy having a dream that he was getting bullied, and he has a dream where he goes to Monster Island with little Minula, who is also dealing with his own bully, and Gabra is that bully. Essentially, all you have is somebody act like a butthole towards somebody. I mean, you're just acting like a total jerk, for lack of words, jerk to him for no good reason. And then to get right down to it, later on in the movie, he acts that way to Godzilla, and Godzilla has no choice but to knock him on his butt. Just knock him down and put him in his place. And all he does is just like a little obnoxious kid. That's all he essentially acts like, a little obnoxious kid that needs to be put in his place. And I'm going to say it in terms of this movie, I will go ahead and spoil this one for you because of the fact I did not like it. He does put him in his place. Thankfully, Godzilla puts Gabra in his place. He shuts him up, and he doesn't kill him, I don't think. But he does beat him so bad he puts him in his place. And it's just, to me, he's a horrible looking monster. I can't even stand looking at him. Can't stand hearing his so-called roar that he makes. He's obnoxious. That's one main reason I don't like that movie, among other things. But I said, to me, that's what makes him probably the most obnoxious. But it makes him the fifth worst opponent. But I'm gonna say, if I had most obnoxious Godzilla opponents, that would be number one on the list for sure. But that's what makes him number 5 on my list. And number 4 on my list is one that's a little bit more recent. He's more of one from the Millennium series, called Megaguirus. You see him right there. I mean, he looks like a fearsome foe, doesn't he? He looks pretty fearsome, pretty mean looking. I mean, he could do a lot of damage to buildings. I mean, he's supposed to be he is essentially a giant prehistoric dragonfly. They claim like he's supposed to be extinct, the first of an extinct species that has not been around in ever so many million years. And they said they were pretty much the dominant species on this planet before they went extinct. And like they were the most dominant species of animal on the planet before they went extinct all of a sudden. And how he ends up coming back, they were experimenting in the course of the movie. They were experimenting with a black hole gun. They're essentially trying to open a miniature black hole to suck Godzilla into, to keep him from another defensive deterrent to keep Godzilla away from Japan. And what they do is they accidentally created a bend in time and space, will fluctuate and bend in time and space. And what should come through there? That. Essentially, I think it comes through as like a larva or something, and it lays a bunch of eggs, and it sprouts forth these, and it winds up coming forth these species of prehistoric dragonfly called Meganulon. They're kind of big, and they wind up attacking Godzilla and sucking juice out of him and everything. And the survivor, I think they used a black hole gun one time on him, and it kills a bunch of them. Anyway, the survivors wind up finding the carcass of the supposedly dead or sleeping Megaguirus, and they proceed to then put all their energy that they sucked out of Godzilla into Megaguirus, who is a she. Come to find out, that's what we like the queen. they said, and I think they said they found out that like there's one that comes out of it as like the Mega Gearus, but it wound up coming out underneath the sea and pretty much can vibrate its wings so fast that not only will the sonic waves destroy buildings, it can also she can also move super fast. And I'm gonna say it that I like Mega Gearus way more than I like Mothra, but Mega Gearus is just not that intimidating a foe. All Mega Gearus has is a couple little pincher claws up here that Godzilla easily rips off. And I said, other than the super speed, Mega Gearus is essentially useless. Essentially is not a good foe, and I'm gonna say it, the fight was not that good. The Mega Nulon did more damage on Godzilla, draining his juice, than Mega Gearus did by itself. I mean, I'm gonna say it, Mega Gearus drained the energy out of him and then reflected it back at him in one big blast, and that was pretty impressive. But Mega Gearus only used that trick one time, just one time. Rest of it was just slapping him silly. Essentially, looked like she was slapping Godzilla silly. And to me, there got to be more to a fight than that. And I ain't going to spoil the fight because it is a good movie. I ain't going to spoil the end of the fight for you. But I said, just go see it. Godzilla vs. Mega Gearus. It's a good movie, but not a good monster. Cool looking, pretty impressive, but not a good challenge for Godzilla. I mean, it was just ridiculous seeing him get slapped silly by a giant dragonfly. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And that's why it made number 4 on the list. But they're definitely worse, as you'll see. Number 3 on the list is one from the old Shura era that also showed up in the Millennium era Godzilla, Ibra, also known as the Sea Monster from Godzilla vs. the Sea Monster. And pretty much speaks for itself. It's a giant lobster. Has no special abilities at all. No kind of special abilities at all. Has no kind of special abilities at all. It's a giant lobster that does eat people. While that does make for a good giant monster horror movie about giant lobster eating people, plucking people out and eating them. Doesn't make for a good Godzilla foe. I mean, it goes for the same category as Mega Gearus. Essentially, I mean, it was more of a fight with Ibra than it was Mega Gearus, but still, you got the same problem: big claws, essentially slapping, can't really grab hold of Godzilla. Throwing rocks, splashing water is essentially what the first duel between them was like. And I said, it just wasn't much of a fight at all. Essentially just making Ibra look like a chump. Making it hot for him with the breath and everything. It's just, I mean, like I said, essentially Godzilla could turn Ibra into a boiled lobster in a hurry. I mean, and that's essentially what happens, but I said I ain't going to give away too much, but like I said, it just really wasn't even a close fight. And then, to show you how much Ibra really isn't that good a monster, the big scene in Godzilla Final Wars where all the monsters are turned loose on the Earth by mysteriously turned loose on the Earth, turns out you'll find that out later in the movie when you see it. All the monsters like Anguirus and Rodan and Zilla and all the others. Ibra is actually turned loose on the Earth and is actually, I think, trashing a part of Tokyo, part of Japan. Actually, trashing part of Japan, and he's taken out by. And in the movie, they talk about these mutants that they have like special strength and speed and stuff like that. It's basically just superhuman. Basically, they're mutants. They call them mutants on there, but it's like essentially they run faster, stronger, more agile than ordinary human beings. The 5 of them together with some laser guns actually took him down. Seriously? 5 abnormally strong and fast human beings with laser guns took out a giant lobster. While the design of Ebro looked a lot more realistic, like a real giant lobster, they defeated it, but it did get brought back later on in the movie, in which it was, I'm going to say, soundly defeated by Godzilla. Matter of fact, it wound up with its claw going right through the eye of Hedorah, but that's all I'll go into. But still, it isn't a very good Godzilla opponent. I mean, no special powers, nothing. I mean, it ain't that big of a challenge. I mean, it's just a giant lobster. So that's why I wound up at number 3 on my list. And number 2, this may get a little bit. I'm a little bit unsure about putting this one on here because it can be a bit of a challenge. It was a bit of a challenge. I mean, he even needed help from Jet Jaguar to defeat this one. But I still put it on there anyway for certain reasons, and that is Megalon. You see there the big mechanical bug Megalon from underwater subterranean city, who just basically got sick of being radioactive tests, nuclear tests by the government and everything, and they just decided to turn Megalon loose on the Earth to destroy it. Which I said, it looks pretty impressive. It's pretty impressive, but it's just. All you got, it has, it shoots bombs from its mouth. It has a little laser on top and everything. And it can drill underground and present that kind of a challenge. But still, you don't have somebody that can basically just hit somebody or pick somebody up. It's at a disadvantage. It's essentially at a disadvantage. Other than that, it's a pretty impressive challenge for Godzilla. But it's a pretty impressive challenge for Godzilla, but at the same time, it's not, because I said he can't hit. He can't hit. I said, and then, like I said, he has a distinct disadvantage of, like I said, he could get caught drilling. If he comes up at the wrong time, he could get caught by his drills and yanked out the ground. There's several things wrong with Megalon. At the same time, it's kind of a split decision with Megalon, to tell you the truth. At the same time, on the one hand, he is an impressive challenge, firepower-wise and strength-wise. He is a pretty big challenge. But at the same time, he's at a disadvantage. On the one hand, like I said, he can't pick up. He doesn't have hands. He just has drill hands. He can't. He could probably jab with them, but I ain't ever seen him do it. He could probably slap, but all he can do is slap. That's it. And another distinct disadvantage, he needs to be controlled. He needs to be under remote control to be controlled. He has to be controlled. Out of control, he just can't. He's useless. If what I remember from the movie is right, when they had a control device in there, he's just and once without the control device, he just hops around in circles and has no direction. He has no guidance of where to go to and what to destroy. So, I said he's pretty much has a disadvantage. Like that, and if Godzilla had been there at the time he was doing that, he could have destroyed him. He could have pretty much taken him out pretty fast had he not been under control and he gone out of control. So he would have been distinctly. He's a good and a bad foe for Godzilla, and that he could be easily beaten at the right time, very easily beaten, and that's why he made it on my list. And number 1 on my list, I'll probably get a lot of flack for this. Number 1 on my list is one of his most well-known foes, Mothra. And I know what you're thinking. Why did you put Mothra on this list of his best foe, of his worst foes? Because a lot of folks consider him one of his greatest foes, but one of his greatest, most well-known foes. Well, I'll tell you why he's on the worst foes list. he beats Godzilla too easily. The way he's portrayed in the movie, he has almost nearly godlike power. I mean, he's like Lex Luthor with kryptonite. He shows up, he's in trouble. Might as well let him win. It's like Superman Returns with Lex Luthor on a kryptonite island and letting thugs beat him up. I mean, the first Godzilla movie, the first Mothra versus Godzilla movie, Mothra was the good guy. He was the good guy, and Godzilla was the bad guy. And you ended off the movie with the I know I'm gonna spoil it. The Mothra caterpillars wrapping him up in a cocoon and causing him to fall into the sea and not be seen for years. Every time Mothra showed up, Godzilla was almost automatically the bad guy. Every time. Most of the show was serious. He never made Godzilla look like a chump. Automatically Godzilla was a villain every time he was around. And it was like that in the Heisei series. In Godzilla vs. Mothra Battle for Earth. Mothra shows up. I mean, there's a duplicate Mothra in there. But with Godzilla, when it would Batra down the Black Mothra, Batra out of the equation, Mothra goes over there and automatically starts doing stuff to beat Godzilla. Starts spreading his little powder, his little I mean, it was a ridiculous fight in the first Mothra versus Godzilla. The original Mothra versus Godzilla, knocking him down with Gale Force winds, knocking him on his rear end. Then in Godzilla vs. Mothra Battle for Earth, automatically once again Godzilla is the bigger villain here. I mean, all of a sudden, Batra wasn't the big villain anymore. Godzilla was. And then what did they do? Have Mothra win again. And once again, Mothra wins the fight. All of a sudden, he just sprinkles a little dust, and all of a sudden, Godzilla's helpless. Oh, he's helpless. So I was like, that's ridiculous. It's like Superman with a little green rock. It's ridiculous. So why he shows up with a little green rock? Oh, we gotta let him win. And then, Mothra wins at the end of that one again. And then Godzilla versus and Godzilla Tokyo SOS, he shows up again. Again, Mothra comes into question again. This is the one and only time that Godzilla destroys Mothra. He hits Mothra with his breath. Mothra bursts into flames and explodes. And then later on, the caterpillars once again wrap in a cocoon, just like Mothra versus Godzilla. They beat him by doing that. I ain't going to reveal what happened in the rest of the movie because that's something else. But like I said, but that's essentially how they beat Godzilla once again was webbing little caterpillars and little white wrapping a little cocoon. And to me, that's ridiculous. Godzilla getting whooped in his own movies by a flipping caterpillar and a moth. A flipping caterpillar that turns into a moth. I was like, that's just like the whole thing where I've said in a previous show about whenever Batman's in a Superman story, so the Superman's he's weak and Batman is nearby godlike. It's the same thing with this. Mothra shows up in a Godzilla movie, and all of a sudden Godzilla's a helpless little thing that gets beat by a flipping moth. That's to me is what puts him on the list of the worst foes, because no matter how many of the villains he's beat, they can't ever let him beat Mothra. They just can't. He whooped King Ghidorah on how many times. He's beaten all these other foes. But when you bring Mothra into the equation, one time he's destroyed. And I almost forgot about the Mothra version. I don't want to say even counting the version of Mothra from Giant Monster All Out Attack, because that ain't even the same Mothra we're talking about here. That's a mythical, magical Mothra in an alternate universe that does get destroyed by Godzilla. I will say that much. And by that Godzilla in that movie. I'm talking about the classic Mothra, the Infant Island Mothra with the two little fairy girls. The little fairy girls they call Cosmos in one. I don't know what they call them in the other one. The other one's the little Infant Island twin fairies. One way or the other, it's always the same. It's always the two little fairies and that moth. But I said, but no matter what, I mean, he's destroyed that. He destroyed the monster. I said, that giant monster lie attack aside, they never let him beat Mothra except for that one time he destroyed him in Tokyo SOS. But even then, their offspring rise up and beat him. Once again, the whole cocooning trick. Well, of course, Mothra managed to show up in Final Wars, but he doesn't fight Godzilla. He's more of an ally in that movie. And if you pardon the noise that just happened, that was my email. But like I said, I just can't stand it. I mean, they can't even have one movie where Mothra gets beaten, except for that one instant in Tokyo SOS. But in the end, they can't even have the movie in Godzilla in his own movie by beating Mothra. At the end of every time we beat Mothra, we gotta let him roll over for Mothra. To me, it's ridiculous, and that is why he's number one on my list of worst foes. Because it's like every time no matter how many monsters he's fought, they put Mothra in the movie with him. He throws it. They make him roll over and get beaten by Mothra. And to me, that's ridiculous. But do y'all agree with me? What do y'all think? Do y'all agree with me? Do y'all disagree with Mothra being number one on the list? Do y'all disagree with this list? Let me know. And I would love to hear what y'all think. Drop me a comment in the comment box. I'd love to hear your comments on this. And I guess that's all for this edition of Mr. J's Geek Corner. And next time is going to be continuing with Godzilla Month. Next time is going to be the best and worst versions of Godzilla, which should be a pretty good one. It should be a pretty good one. As always, like, subscribe. If you got any comments about the show, drop me a comment in the comment box. Y'all have any ideas for anything you'd like to hear me talk about on the show, drop me a comment. I'm always looking for fresh new ideas for things to talk about and fresh new things to talk about on this show. And so I would love to hear your ideas. I said you never know when your idea may get made, maybe end up being an episode of Mr. J's Geek Corner. So I said drop me a comment and send me your ideas. I would love to hear from you. And I'll see y'all next time.